housekeeping announcements first. If you happen to face any audio or video issues during the session or have any technical questions, please post your queries in the Q&A panel and our team is here to help you. We often get many questions during a session and we'll do our best to respond to them in real time. Please note that this session will also be recorded and the recording will be available for on-demand viewing approximately 48 hours after today's broadcast. In this online airlift event, we'll be taking a deep dive into Microsoft Power Apps this week, and this will be followed up by another Power Automate Airlift event soon after. Today, we'll be working with reusable components in Canvas apps and embedded Canvas apps. Our presenter today will be Samiksha Gupta, who is a partner technical architect in the One Commercial Partner team at Microsoft based out of India. She works with a variety of partners, enabling them on Power Platform. I would request Samiksha to take it from here.
Hi everybody and welcome to the virtual edition of Power Platform Partner Airlift. My name is Samiksha Gupta and in this session we'll be discussing about reusable components. As part of this session, we plan to cover and understand what are reusable components and what are certain advantages of reusable components. What are component custom properties? What are behavior formulas associated with reusable components? And what is a component library? So let's get started with it. We have two types of components, Canvas components and Power Apps component framework. Canvas components are targeted for Canvas app makers, whereas PCF or Power Apps component framework is targeted for professional developers to build. Canvas components works in Canvas apps, whereas PCF works in model-driven apps today and support for Canvas apps is in preview. You can visit Community Component Gallery. The URL for the same is over here. To draw and take some inspiration from components built by fellow Power users, you can reuse some of these components as well as submit your own components to the gallery. So let's understand what are components. This feature is currently in public preview. Components are reusable building blocks for Canvas apps so that app makers can create custom controls to use inside an app or across apps using component library. Let's think of it this way, that you are going to build a Canvas app for your organization, wherein there are certain set guidelines for using background for your header, a specific font size for your header, a specific font type for your header, and so on. And similarly for various other components such as a navigation bar or a footer. In a standard scenario, you might be building this component and copy pasting this across various screens. But by using components, you can reduce this effort of duplication and standardize the look and feel of your app. You'll create a new component for header and define your standard color, your font type and font text and so on, which can now be used multiple times across your apps or across various screens inside your apps. And now after some time, that component definition can change in terms of now the organization wants, instead of Arial or a bold, they want italic. Instead of going and changing every header definition, if you update your component definition inside the app, all instances of components inside the app will reflect those changes. Hence, it eliminates the effort of recreating that component across various screens, hence reducing duplication. It also fosters a collaborative environment and standardizing your look and feel across your applications. Components use advanced features such as custom properties to define the interface with the hosting screen. You can also import and export your components from an app to another app. A component can receive input values and output data if you create one or more custom properties. Input property is how a Canvas component receives data to be used inside the component. or the property can be of the type output. This is used to emit data or component state which the app can now use. Input or output property can be of the type text, number, boolean, etc. And the default value is assigned to the property based on the data type. Components have an on-reset behavior formula. You can run this formula when an event triggers a change. So for example, I have a time picker control over here, and I want to reset it to some default value on click of this button. So I select the onSelect property of this button to call reset time picker, that is the component name. And inside the component, I define the onReset property to set it to some variable and reset the text input. So in this case, we are resetting the component instance from outside the component, or we are explicitly calling the onReset function. There is another way to trigger onReset from the inside or implicitly triggering it, that is calling onReset when property changes. So while we are creating a new custom property, we can select this raise onReset when value changes. Hosting screen does not have to call reset explicitly. So over here, the input to the numeric component is changing. And as and when the input to the numeric component is changing, the default value for the numeric component is getting reset. Let's discuss about scope of components. So we can think of components as an encapsulated black box, wherein custom properties are the interface to your hosting screen. So you can't access controls in the components from outside of the component, and similarly, you can't refer to anything outside the component from inside the component. Exception to this is data sources, which is shared between an app and its components. So hosting screen can use input or output properties to communicate with the components. You can set variables inside the component. Update context function is not supported to be used inside a component, but you can use set function to set or update a variable inside the component. But these variables are local to the component. You can also import or export components from file or other apps in the environment with components. Once you select import, you will either have an option to import it from an app or upload a file. While you are importing it from an app or uploading a file, you don't have this option of selecting which component you want to import. Similarly, while exporting, you don't have this option of selecting which component to export. Currently, all components are imported or exported. Importing the same component will replace the existing component. Also, while you export a component, it downloads the components to a file with .msap file extension. Now we will see a demo around components and how we can create a component of our own. So I have signed into make.powerapps.com with my credentials, and now we will create a simple header component that we will reuse across our screens inside an app. So let's just go and click on apps, select new app and select Canvas. Now I'll select tablet layout. In my tree view, I can see there are screens and then components. So I'll click on components and I can select new component to create a new component. Before we do that, let's select on these three ellipses over here. And once I select import components, a dialog box opens up, which lists all the apps that contain components and that I have permission to edit. Once I select this app and on clicking import, I will import all the components which are part of this calendar app and the most recent published version of all the components in the app. So I'll select import. If you see, we currently don't have the capability to select which components to import from that app. So all the components from that app get imported. So currently there are 2 components and both of these components get imported over here. To select or to create a new component, I'll click on new component and a blank canvas opens up over here. I can rename this. So I'll select rename and give it a name, header label. I'll click on insert and insert a new label. So I'll just quickly give it some values around. Okay, yeah. So let me just change the font to Arial. I'll change the font size to 25. I can similarly change the font weight, align it in the center, and I'll just simply change the color over here and the text color. So that's it. Now I want its width to be the width of this header label, that is the component which it has. So in a component, to form a component definition, I can insert various controls. So currently I've just inserted a label. I can insert something like an icon over here. So if I just select, I want a back icon. So I can have this icon as part of this. I'll again change the color for this particular icon to be white. And I want on select of this icon to go to the back last screen. So I'll have back over here. That's it. For this particular label, I want its height and width to be of that as of the parent. So I'll just change it to I'll change the width to be parent dot width. And I want height also to be parent dot height. Okay, so for the header label, I just want to fixate its height to be 200. I want to fix that height. And I want the width to be the width of my screen. I'll just change that app.activeScreen dot width. Okay, here. So let's just go to our screens and I'll insert a component. So I'll click on insert, I'll click on custom, and then I'll see which all components I have. So let's just insert the component which we just built, which is a header component. So if you see, it takes this width of the parent, that is of the active screen. So this is the component which I have. But currently it shows text over here. I want to have a different value for every screen I insert. So if I click on a new screen and I insert a custom component over here as well, so I'll insert header label. I want text to be different for every screen. So I'll go back to my components and I'll define a custom property for this component. So let's just click on new custom properties. I'll give it a display name, which is, this is header text. This is the name, is the property name. So if I just click on learn more over here, this is the name which will be used when referencing the property inside formulas. So I'll refer to this particular property as header label dot header text. I'll give it an appropriate description. So text value for header. This is of property type input. I can change the property type if it is emitting some data or if it is receiving some value. So in our case, it is receiving certain value. So I'll select input. I can change the data type. I want it to be of data type text, and I'll create this. So as I create this custom property, once I select this custom property, it has been given some default value which is of data type text. I can change this default value to be insert text. And now I'll go back to my label 1, and I want the text field over here to point to that custom property. So for that, I'll just use header label. I'll refer to that property, header label dot header text. And hence this is coming over here. Let's just go back to our screens. And if you see, now we can see a custom property over here, which is header text. If I just make this property as screen 1, and I want this property as over here as screen 2, it is coming over here. Let's just insert a button to, I'm just making this button to navigate to our screen 2. I'll select action and navigate screen 2. That's it. Let's just see this basic app in action. That I'll select button. I'm on screen 2, and once I click back, I'm back on my screen 1. So we are able to easily build something as quick as a simple header control that can be reused, and it eliminates the duplication effort. I don't have to copy paste. Now, for instance, now the definition has changed over here. Instead of a blue background, I want to have a custom background in terms of I want to change the color to red. If you see, as we make changes over here, these same changes reflect across all our screens inside this app. So for this particular header label as well. So let's just see. I click on button, I am navigated to screen 2, and I am back on screen 1. So components are really great for building reusable controls across our screen, and hence eliminating our effort or duplication or rebuilding that particular functionality. Component libraries is a feature that is currently in public preview. It provides a centralized and managed repository of components for reusability. So we can just think of a component library as a container that has various component definitions inside it. You can easily discover and search components inside a library. Component library is in fact the recommended way to reuse components across apps. So when using a component library, an app maintains dependencies on the components it uses. So for example, if you have several components inside a component library and you go ahead and edit one of those components, the app maker currently utilizing that component library will be notified of the available updates once you publish those updates in your components. You can share your component library to be used by other app makers or for them to contribute to that component library in the same way as you share a Canvas application. So let's just go ahead and see how we can create components inside a component library for the purpose of our reusability. So here I have again signed into make.powerapps.com. I'll navigate to apps and I'll create a component library. So I'll click on component libraries. I'll click on a new component library and give it some name. So let's name it as organization library. And I'll click on create. So if I see in my tree view, I can see screens and I can see components. So the screens inside a component library are available for testing purpose only. It provides the library creators to quickly test the created component and actually validate the behavior on an actual screen. If you are actually updating your component over time, you can also validate that update behavior inside the screen before actually using it inside an app. To use the components from the component library, you must create an app that uses the component library. You can preview component library components using these screens, and you can also play over here and validate. So let's just click on components. And instead of creating a component from scratch, I'm actually going to reuse some of the components from a community. So I'm navigating to powerapps.microsoft.com. Here I'll click on community. I'll select galleries. And I'm selecting Canvas apps component samples. So over here we have a lot of community samples which have been created. Let me use this color picker control. So if I see, it mentions that a color picker is used to browse through and select colors, and I can select any of these colors from the gallery, and there is some output property which is defined. So selected color and selected hex color, and I can download this MS App component file over here. I'll go back to my component library. I'll select over here and click on import components. I'll select upload file and I'll select this component. So now I'll delete this component 1, and over here in the color picker I can see that there are some controls which have been inserted. So if I just navigate to this gallery colors, I can see if there is some error and I can correct this error. So here I'm just leveraging. Okay, so now I see a component which is there, which is a color picker component with the output properties as selected color and selected hex color. I'll click on screens and let's insert this component and validate its behavior. So I'll select custom and I'll click insert color picker. Okay, now again I'll insert, let's insert a shape. So I'll insert a circle over here. And the circle's fill should be color picker. So I'm leveraging this control and I'm selecting dot selected color. So I'm selecting the output property for the color picker, and that is the way I'm going to interface with this component. So basis what I'm selecting in my gallery, my color picker gallery, custom component, I'm actually getting that color. So let's just go and save this. So this is the name. I'll give it a description. A collection of components for my company, and I can save it. So if I want my component library to be used by other users, or if I want any other user to contribute to the component library, I'll select share. So I'm sharing it the same way as you would share a Canvas app. So once I click on share, I can select and add any user. So if I want to share it with Jeff, I can make him the co-owner as well, or I can just make him the user of this component. So for any app maker, if I want them to leverage these components inside their app, I'll just select not make them as co-owner. But for example, for Jeff, if I want him to contribute to this gallery, to this library, I'll make him a co-owner and select share. That's it. I am done. Let's go back to our organization library. Now I'm going to edit my header component app, which we had built earlier. I'm going to insert that component from the component library. So I'll select insert. Over here, I'll click on get more components. So before I click on get more components, I see that inside custom over here, I'm seeing the components which are available as part of my app, which I made inside the app. Once I click on get more components, I'll see that I have this option of importing components from organization library or a component library. I can select which component I want to import. So I'll select color picker and I'll click on import. Now inside library components, I can select earlier library components was not coming over here, but now it is. Since I have a library component, I'll select add to canvas. And I'll reposition it over here. And if for my screen 1, I want the fill to be this color picker dot, I'll see the properties over here, selected color. I'll get that. So navigating, yeah. So here I have color picker dot selected color. So let's just test this app out. So whichever color I'm selecting, the color picker is reflecting the changes. Okay. So I'll click on OK over here. I'll go to file and save this app. I'll go ahead and publish this app as well, publish this particular version. So let's now close this app. And now I'm back again to my organization library. Now supposingly there's some need that I want to add one more custom property, which gives me the complementary color of the color which I'm selecting. So let's just select new custom property. I'll give it a display name, complementary color. I'll give it a description, complementary color for selected color, and I'll define the property type. This is an output property type, as I'm emitting some data from the control, from the custom control component which we have made, and I'll select the data type. So I'll select color and then I'll create. I'll define this property as the complementary property, as the complementary color property of the selected color over here. Now I'll click on screens. I'll insert, say, one more shape over here. And for this, I want the fill to be color picker. Again, I'm going to color picker and then dot. So I'm going to see all the properties. If you see now, I'm seeing a complementary color property as well. So let's just test this out. If I have pink, complementary color gets displayed, and for a green, and so on. So hence this update is working perfectly fine for us. For this update to reflect to our app creators who are leveraging this component, we need to save and publish this version. So you should actually add a version note, though it is optional, but it is a good practice to add a version note. So if I just say added complementary color property to added complementary color property to color picker and save this. Once I publish this, these latest changes will get reflected. So now let's go back to Power Apps and let's go back to our app. And over here, we'll click on Edit. So we are editing the header component app, wherein we had used this color picker component from our organization library. So as soon as I open this app, I see component library updates available. And when I click on review, this is the version note which was there, that is added complementary color property to color picker. Hence, I emphasized the importance of adding a version note so that the app creators who are leveraging this component can get to know what was the update that was made available. So once I click on update, now my color picker component has been updated with the latest update that I made in my organization library. Now we can actually use this complementary color property. If I click on this button and I want to set the fill to color picker _1 dot selected, okay, I want complementary color dot complementary color. I can define that. So let's just go ahead and play. So if I select this color, I have a complementary color. If I'm selecting green, it is getting filled by the background is getting a green color, whereas button is getting a complementary color of green, which is pink. Let's just see some other components which I have as part of this app. So I'll click on insert, I'll select custom, and I'll select calendar. Again, I want to insert this menu component. So in this menu component, I have an input property of items. I can change this property. If I just want this screen to be home, screen 2, and so on. So I can customize this menu component. Similarly, for this calendar component, there are certain custom properties which are available. That is dates color, default start date. I want to set that default start date to now. I can have a default end date, which again is today's date. Let's just play. So this is the default start date. And here I can select the duration. So 3rd and then 25th. So all these dates are getting selected. Similarly, I have a basic navigation component over here. I can configure in terms of the name which is selected. I want to navigate it to that screen and so on. And I can view the component definitions over here. Here are certain recommendations regarding building good reusable components. So firstly, a reusable control should offer for some degree of customization and flexibility for the consumer of the component. So what I mean by this is that if there are some visual behaviors, I'll usually keep them open for the consumer of that component to set in, so that it can easily blend in with the app in which they are using. It seems like a seamless behavior. So something like a foreground color, or something like if I want text size to be customized in case of the header label which we had set in. So that basis the app it is getting used in, I can customize the size of the font I am using it. So what it allows is that consumer of the control need not delve into the component's internal implementation in order to meet their requirement. Hence, we should allow for some customization and flexibility for the consumer. Apps hosting the component shouldn't care about the component's implementation. Dependencies internal to the component should be as minimal as possible. The interface of the custom component, that is, input and output properties, should be kept as simple and clean as possible. We should not overcomplicate the component and unnecessarily expose certain input and output properties. If there's a complex component that we are building in, we should try and split it into multiple simpler components. Also, we should avoid making breaking changes in the interface. So for example, if you have created a custom property of type output and the data type is a screen, for example, or the data type is a table or a record, for example, and now in the next update, you are making that data type to be text or Boolean or changing the data type, it will definitely create some changes in the interface. So do not change the input type of the property and avoid making such changes in the interface. And in this session, we'll be discussing about Canvas apps in model-driven forms. One advantage of Canvas apps is its ability that it enables makers to easily design and create custom layouts using low-code what you see, what you get Canvas App Designer. It also enables makers to connect and display data from over 300 data sources. Another advantage is the ability to take Canvas apps and embed it in another scenario. So if you have a device ordering app and you want to embed it in a website or in your SharePoint, you can do so. You can also embed a Canvas app in Power BI. Not only embed in Power BI, but it is also tied to its data. You can also embed it in Microsoft Teams or in model-driven apps as well. Let us talk about embedded Canvas apps from a model-driven perspective. In a lots of situations, embedded Canvas can help supplement things from a model perspective. It combines the benefit of Canvas with model-driven. So model-driven apps are CDS-based apps. Canvas apps, on the other hand, can bring multiple data sources together. You can augment them with better visuals. So with embedded Canvas, you can easily create rich visual areas on a form and display data from variety of data sources next to your CDS. Canvas apps are configured in the same way like you configure a custom control. Embedded Canvas brings in contextual data from host model-driven form to the Canvas app. Canvas apps are enabled per form. They can be enabled or disabled via properties. Canvas app can be created from the form editor or start from the maker portal. They are configurable on form fields. So, as I mentioned in the last slide, they are configurable on the form field. So an embedded app is always associated with a field on the form. Always use a field that is guaranteed to have a value. If your field doesn't have value, your embedded app won't refresh to any change in the data on the host model-driven form. Let us just go ahead and see how we can embed a Canvas app in model-driven form. So I have a model-driven form for an asset checkout scenario. So I have certain products. For example, if I take this particular product, a user can go ahead and reserve this product, and we get information around when is the reservation date starting, reserved for days, and return by. And similarly, we are getting other information around reviews. So this is easy to use, poor performance, or so on and so forth. Now, what I want is that I want to have a Canvas app over here which shows reservations in this particular main form only for this particular record and for this which is of product entity. So I'll go ahead and I have opened this product entity. I have opened the forms. And I'll go ahead and customize this form. So I'm clicking on this form, which is the main form. I'm click on edit form. Currently, this capability is available in the classic form designer. So I'll click on switch to classic. So here is the section reservations where I want to show my Canvas app. And what I have done is that I've inserted a field which is a required field and is always guaranteed to have a value. So I've inserted this particular field. Now I'll go ahead and embed a Canvas app. This is the way similar to how you would configure a custom control. So I click on change properties. Then I click on controls. I'll click on add control and I'll select Canvas app from here. Clicking on add. Now when I click customize, a pop-up will open in the Power App Studio. So a Canvas app will open in the Power App Studio. In the meanwhile it opens, let's see, if you see in the properties over here, entity name is product and this app name and app ID will get automatically generated and filled in once I save my Canvas app. Notice if there's any change in the app ID, it will break the link from model driven form to the particular embedded Canvas app. So going back to my Maker portal over here, if you see, I have this control model driven form integration in this tree view. This control is responsible for bringing contextual data from the host model driven form to this embedded Canvas app. And automatically a form screen was created for me and it displays the data which was passed on by virtue of this model driven form integration. I don't need this screen, so I'll go ahead, insert a blank screen. I'll delete this particular screen. I'll rename this screen as reservations. Reservation. And I'll insert a gallery. So I'll change the layout of this gallery to be title, subtitle, and body. And in the items property of the gallery, I'll leverage model driven form integration dot item. Notice item is a read only property. If you want to write back to your model driven form, you need to use a CDS connector for the same. And then I'll link it to reservations over here. So I've selected reservations, model driven form integration dot item dot reservations. Okay. Okay. So I'll just select which all fields I want in my gallery. So for title, I want name. Okay, I'll just select what I want in the body. So I want number of days it is reserved for. Then as part of my subtitle, I want reservation start date. As part of my title, I want name. And I'll insert one more label. Where I want details around return by. To ensure better readability and understanding, I'll just concat this with the name. So reservation start. And so on. I'll do it for other fields as well. Reserve for days. And return by. So done. So I have a basic gallery over here and I can just modify other properties as well as needed. So I'll just align it better. I'll resize this gallery control. Okay. So now I want that when I click on this particular record, it should direct me to that reservation record. So the on select property of this gallery, currently it is false. I can select the on select property to be navigate to main form of this particular entity. So model driven form integration. If you see, these are certain predefined actions on the host model driven form, which are available from within the Canvas app. So navigate to main form, navigate to a view, opening a quick create form, a refresh form, or a save form. So if I just select navigate to main form, I'll have to give it the entity name, which is sample underscore reservation. Then I have to give it the name, main form's name, which is information, and I have to give it the record ID. So which is gallery 1 dot selected dot reservation. Okay, and now I want a button over here by which I can open a quick create form to open a quick reservation so that I can create a reservation. So again, for this particular buttons on select, I can define the formula as model driven form dot open quick create form. And I just have to give the entity name over here, which is sample underscore reservation. So just checking the name of my entity, which is correct. And I'll just rename this to new reservation. And again, I want to insert one more button which shows all the reservations. So I'll again change the on select property over here to I want to navigate to a particular view. So sample underscore reservation, which is the entity name, and then the view. So if I just go and see on my app designer, for reservation, I have certain views, and the view associated, I want to navigate to this particular view, active reservations. So I'll just select this view over here. So I'll just type active reservations. I want to insert a label. I just want to show the value reservations over here. You can also create one more button and navigate to your review screen. So you can have multiple screens and do the, you can customize your Canvas app. Just making certain changes over here. Right. So now I'll click on File. I'll click on Save and give this app a name. Asset app. I'll save this app. So now this app is saved. I'll navigate back, and if you see app name and app ID is pre-populated, I'll click on OK. Let's just select this property, this field, and again click on change properties and select controls. I want this to be enabled on web. I'll just click on web and select OK. I'll save this. And publish my customizations. Okay, now I can close this and I'll come back. I'll just refresh my app designer and I'll click on play. So I'll just open LED monitor. And we'll see that an app has come in and there are two people whom it is reserved for. When I click on the name, it is opening, click on the record, it is opening the particular reservation which was there. If I go back and click on again on some record, I can click on a new reservation and it will open a quick create form for me. Similarly, if I want to navigate to the active reservations view, I'll click on all reservations and I am navigated to this particular view. So if you see, we can bring in we are bringing in Canvas app features and embedding it over here. So we are bringing in the properties and best of both Canvas and model driven apps. Okay, so let me navigate back. As we saw that model driven form integration brings in the context from the source or the hosting model driven form to the embedded Canvas app. There's an item property which provides read-only access to the hosting form record, whereas the data property is for the internal use by the framework and is used by the framework to send some key data from the host model-driven form to the embedded Canvas app. While we are working with the related data, so for example, if you are embedding it on your account's main form and you want to list related contacts, this formula won't work. You will have to use up a lookup like this. So for accessing the fields of the related entity, you'll have to use either of these expressions which are listed over here. So while we are working with the hosting form, we have certain controls which are provided to us. There are certain predefined actions which are available. So let's see, for example, navigate to main form, navigate to view, open quick create form, refresh form, and save form. We already saw some of these in our demo. So in the navigate to main form, when I click on this particular contact, the main form for this particular entity gets opened. So for the main form for the selected contact gets opened. Similarly, when we select open a quick create form and specifying the entity name, the specific quick create form gets opened. Similarly, we can do model driven form integration and navigate to view. We can specify the entity name and the view name which is to be used. Refresh form, it refreshes the data on the host model driven form. So certain things we need to be aware of is that currently embedding Canvas apps is only supported on unified web client interface. Publishing the form does not publish the Canvas app. So for example, if I'm making some changes in my Canvas app and I'm not publishing it and I'm just publishing my form, my model driven form, those changes won't get reflected. So I have to publish my Canvas app as well. While we are creating a new record, Canvas apps won't get displayed as they need a record context to be passed to them. And when we are creating a new form, there is no record context which is available. App size for the Canvas app can be adjusted from the app settings. How we can embed Canvas apps in Power BI. So there are a couple of scenarios which we can think through when we think about Power Apps in Power BI. So we can embed a Power BI tile in a Canvas app, or we can also embed Power BI in model-driven apps. Or as we will discuss in this session is how we can embed a Canvas app inside Power BI. So as we know, Power BI enables data insights and better decision making, while Power Apps enables everyone to build and use apps that connect to business data. Or in fact, embedding Power Apps in Power BI, we can pass context-aware data to a Canvas app which updates in real time as you make changes to your report. For this, we will be using Power Apps visual inside Power BI. Once we do that and we select the relevant data we want to pass to the Power App, we'll have this option of either choosing an existing app, or creating a new app if we are creating it on web. Whereas for Power BI Desktop, we can only choose an existing app. As we see that there's a Power Apps for Power BI visual, and then we have to select the relevant fields we want to pass on to. Let's just go and see how we can do it. So navigating to my browser, here I am on Power BI. I'll select Get Data and I'll select Samples. I want Opportunity Analysis Sample. I'll select Connect and I'll go to this dashboard. I'll open this report for this particular sample. And I will navigate to Upcoming Opportunities page. I'll click on Edit Report. So before inserting a Power Apps visual, I'll just resize these existing visuals so that I have space for a new visual. It is an opportunity analysis dataset which is available, and okay. So I'll just click on visualizations and click on Power Apps for Power BI. If you don't see this visual, you can select and get more visuals from here. So for now, I'll insert this visual. Okay. And if you see, as I inserted this visual, it is in fact giving me some steps on how I can insert a Power App. So first step, if you see, is select the fields from my data set that I would like to use in my app. So I'll click on Fields. And I want certain fields like product code. I want sales stage. I want what is the name of the opportunity. Okay. So now I can either click on choose an app or I can create a new. So for now, I'll just click on create new. And now it has prompted Power Apps Maker, Power App Studio is getting open. Okay. So now in Power App Studio, if you see Power BI integration object, this particular object, in fact, it acts like any other Power Apps read-only data source or a collection. And I can, use this data to populate any control or join or filter with any other data sources. So for now, what I want is that for each opportunity, I want a sales stage and product ID as well. So I'll just select, this is the name. I'll just select on gallery. I'll change the layout to be title, subtitle, and body. And here I have product code. And here I have the sales stage. I'll just resize it. I can do multiple things from here. So first, let me insert a label. I'll just insert some label over here. And now what I want is that I want certain opportunities to be selected. and I want to share that data over Teams on click of a button. So what I'll do is that I'll insert a checkbox. I'll go to input and I want a checkbox. I'll remove this text. I'll remove this next arrow as well. So for now, I just want this checkbox, and I want that when I check this, so I want this to populate in a collection. You can do multiple things. So just for this particular session, I am using this demo. I'm walking through this scenario. On uncheck, I want to remove this particular item. And now I want a drop down. So I'll just click on input and a drop down. I'll just rename it to Team drop down. And I'll insert one more drop down. Or channels. So just renaming it. Okay, I'll go ahead and insert create a connection with Microsoft Teams. Okay. Okay, so I've added this connection and I'll go back over here. And I want the items to be the value of all the items in Microsoft, value of all the teams in Microsoft Teams. Dot value, and I'll change the value to be display name. Similarly, for this particular drop down, I want the value to be the channels for the selected team. So I'm just writing a formula for the same. So for teams drop down, it's not blank. I want Microsoft Teams dot get channels for group, and I'll give it the value of the first drop down which is selected, which is Teams drop down. Teams drop down dot selected dot ID dot value. Okay, I'll again change this to be display name over here. And if we just see, I have all these teams and I'm able to see the channel. Okay, now I'll just insert a button. I just want that, whichever opportunity I select should go to a team. You can do multiple things with the same. Okay. So on click of this button, I want some opportunities which are selected to go to teams. So I'll just change the on select property for this button. So Microsoft Teams dot post message to channel. I'll give it the name of the channel. Which is Teams drop down. Dot selected dot ID, which is the channel ID which we have. Then which is the Teams ID which I have. Then I'll have to give it the channel ID, which is channel drop down. Dot selected dot ID. And then certain message which I want to pass. So this is my body. I'll just convert my collection to a comma separated list. So my collection is this, and I'm just changing it to a comma separated list. Okay, and then I'll change I'll tell the content type. Also, once I post this message, I'll clear my collection as well. Okay, so it's a basic app which I have made. A lot of things can be added in terms of you want to deselect all of these checkboxes once which is done. But just to demonstrate the functionality, I have just taken some basic features. Now I'll just save this app. I'll name this as Teams app. Yeah, I'll save this. Okay. So I'll go back to my Power BI. I'll just expand this. I'll be able to see. So for example, if I just select large over here, you'll see the opportunities over here will get filtered. Or if I just select no, this will get filtered. For example, I had selected qualified. So for May and qualify, it gets filtered. Or if I just filter it by month. Okay, so currently there are no opportunities. Okay, so if I just take January and finalize stage, I get the opportunities over there. So now if I just select some 3 opportunities, which is 199, 259 and 400 number, and I select Contoso and I select channel to be general and select send opportunity to teams. These are the opportunities which have come in over here. So you can append it and customize it with your message, but just to show that how Power BI and your Canvas app are bound by the same data. With this, we come to the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you for this insightful session, and thanks to our participants for being here. Hope you all had a great learning experience. We'll see you again tomorrow. Goodbye.